What's up guys, I'm randomfrankp, and buckle up because today we've got the Adderall of gaming keyboards. We're going to be reviewing the brand new Wooting 80HE. This is going to be a big one. So, the 80HE marks Wooting's first major release since the 60HE took the entire industry by storm 3 years ago, both in the esports scene, but also influencing changes in the entire keyboard market. And this new layout of the compact 80% here I think is really going to appeal to a lot more people, especially since 60s have a limited layout and I feel have kind of run their course. This gives gamers and people who need more physical keys that advantage with still a compact footprint. Now taking a look, you'll see the board I have is their special edition transparent Ghost. It's a plastic case, and there's a few different options of materials to pick from that we'll check out coming up, but first impressions out of the box, it looks and feels really good. With all the new features and upgrades to this new design, Wooting's also staying extremely fair in their pricing. In a world of mass inflation, especially in the peripheral market, this starts and can be had for just $199, which again, given their top of the line specs and reputation, is incredible. Now for those who want more heft to your board, it's also available in a zinc alloy frame. So the plastic options are $199, but the all metal alloy frame in black or white, it's gonna bump it up an extra $90 to $290, which I think honestly is still more than fair for the price to materials here, and it's a top and bottom frame, so a complete case swap. You can also choose to just buy the frame separately if you want both options. But this is really well made. The machining here sticks out to me with the smooth edges and contour design, with this really soft finish that has the slightest texture to it. It's a really nice metal frame. And going right along with that inside your box for some extras, you get 2 sets of swappable feet that are comically large, your USB-C cable with a USB-A adapter, your key switch and keycap puller with 4 extra switches in case one breaks so you can swap it out, some additional modifier keycaps, as well as some extra screw sets if you lose one during modding. So speaking of which, let's do a quick case swap so you guys can see all that goes into it, and we'll take a closer look at what we have inside as well. Underneath are 7 screws, 5 up top and 2 on the bottom, and it's not as simple as just taking these out. You're gonna have to do some extra manual work here. Note the keycaps I have removed. This is so you have access to the plastic clips in these spaces that's still holding the case together. You want to gently press down and out to release these clips. May take you a second to perfect that motion, but it's like a downward hook, and once the main clips are undone, the frame just lifts right up. Then from there, you want to gently disconnect the PCB from the daughter board with that standard 5-pin connector, and it's immediately apparent the passion is still with Wooting. For example, I love the little stuff like the Wooting team signature on the bottom of the case under the foam insert. This is on both the plastic and metal cases, and the PET sheet attached to the bottom of the PCB has a little breakdown of all that's going on underneath here, which by the way is acting as like a tape mod for improved acoustics, which like I said is in addition to the roughly 2.5mm foam pad on the bottom of the case. Then sandwiched between the PCB and our polycarbonate plate is a silicone layer to help absorb noise and impact, as this also has built-in gasket strips extending out. There's 8 total here, 4 on top, 4 on the bottom, and these are a thicker piece of silicone that then sit on the built-in raised blocks in the bottom of the case, making it so that the PCB plate and your switches are just supported by those outer gaskets, which gives it a softer flex to the board during use, especially versus a standard tray mount board. Then when you're all ready to put it back together, just remember to reconnect the cable to the PCB, and then it's really a reverse motion because the metal case snaps inward to lock into place with this naturally more dense material. Fasten the 7 screws underneath and you're all done. Shouldn't take you more than 2 or 3 minutes for a complete case swap here. This zinc alloy looks really clean, but don't worry, we're gonna demo both options for the sound test as well coming up. But like I said, I really dig this layout here. The stock double shot PPT shine through keycaps have a slight texture and feel nice, the characters are evenly lit as well, and one of the novelty additions here is with this light bar. Stock, it's just whatever your RGB setting is, it can be configured to a bunch of stuff inside Wootility, but I love using this as a keystroke meter so I can see real time how far you're actuating a key with the Hall effect switches. So let's check them out because these are the new Lekker V2s that get mounted in the north-facing hot swap PCB with 2 pins for added stability so the switch stays nice and secured. Are you listening, Glorious? But versus the original Lekker switches at first glance, they're not too different visually, but where they get a major upgrade are in the feel and sound. They have a tighter tolerance to the housing, so there's less stem wobble overall, and you can see the slight sheen to the stem rails where these are factory lubed. So the fact they're lubed and the new housing materials are going to improve both the feel and the sound in the 80HE. Now these are their stock 60-gram switches with the teal stem, but they also have a lighter 45-gram switch with a yellow stem, the L45, so that's lighter obviously, but the same linear switch in terms of construction and actuation. Now I feel like traditionally people probably prefer a lighter switch, but in this instance, I kind of favor the heavier L60s because with more resistance to the spring, that's going to give you more physical control when it comes to actuating one of the keys, especially when it comes to adjusting them with the 0.1mm actuation and the rapid trigger. So having a heavier spring here is favorable, I feel. But now we're going to do a sound test of the 80HE with both configurations of the zinc alloy case as well as the PCR ghost plastic. So just a quick heads up, both the L45 switches and the L60 switches sound pretty much identical. There's really no discernible difference between the two in this configuration, so that's why I didn't do a sound test comparison, but this feels and sounds really, really good. The stabilizers, as you guys heard, crazy nice. They're pre-lubed, they're screw-in, you can swap them out if you want to put in your own stabilizers, they're nice and consistent and even. This is crazy, big thumbs up. Okay, so one of the big selling points is gonna be the alternative to Razer's Snap Tap, called Snappy Tappy, or SOCD. SOCD stands for simultaneous opposing cardinal directions, like up, down, left, or right, or in-game pressing A and D. Your typical in-game keystrokes when pressing both A and D at the same time would cancel each other out, a null movement, bringing you to a stop, or some games would only recognize the first key that was actuated. Here, both keys stay activated until you physically lift your finger off to reset. With SOCD on, pressing the opposing key immediately triggers it and deactivates my other key for me, eliminating the need for me to lift my finger off of A, which, as you can see, results in these crazy fast but automatic movements that immediately trigger for me. I know, it's a lot of buzzwords, so let me demo this real time for you guys so you can get a better in-game example. This is where something like jiggle strafing becomes extremely OP. You can see SOCD, Snappy Tappy is turned on. For strafing, I'm either holding down A and rapidly tapping D or holding down D and spamming A. This is so I'm constantly moving, making these super micro movements, making me a harder target to hit and giving me the edge for crazy fast peeking. Both A and D are never triggered at the same time in game, despite me literally holding one of those keys at all time. This is what's not possible without SOCD, especially in a game like Counter-Strike where movements are critical. What this is also doing is making it so that my reticle stays controlled to avoid spray. This is also a big one because again, if I can make myself a harder target to hit by constantly moving while still having a reticle that's controlled as if I'm not moving, I'm gonna win a lot more shootouts than not. These movements are something that the pros after thousands of hours can usually pull off, that split millisecond of not triggering A and D simultaneously, which would otherwise make me a sitting duck. But here, SOCD masters it for you. So now that you see how that looks enabled in-game, I'll give you an example of regular movement and strafing with SOCD off. You can see in execution, I'm doing those same key presses by either holding down A or D and rapidly tapping the other key to try to recreate this action, but it doesn't work. What happens is I'm still moving in the direction of the key that was first actuated, and tapping the other key is only going to slow me down or bring me to a complete stop. So I could still strafe, but it won't let me do it properly unless I release one of the keys before pressing the other. And that's what you don't have with SOCD enabled. That's what gave me those crazy controlled jiggle strafe movements versus here, just still constantly moving in one direction. Then also going along the other point that I made earlier about the reticle, this arguably has the bigger user penalty as a result. Check out how wide my reticle is, resulting in bullet spray. Then slowing it down and zooming in, you can see the movements are resulting in less accurate shots, whereas before, doing that same manual input on the keyboard gave me a complete advantage with a smaller, more controlled reticle. Now this is just an example in Counter-Strike, which is banned in online play by the way, but other games like Overwatch are equally OP with these movements, as you can see. To enable this, you just head to Wootility in your browser, which is always a big thumbs up when you don't need to actually download software. I think Wooting was one of the first companies that I remember doing something like this. And I won't spend too much time showing it off because this is an early alpha version. There's probably gonna be some changes along the way. But tucked away in the Advanced Keys tab are the main modes that you're gonna wanna mess around with. With SOCD, you add your 2 keys, and there's other options like, last input priority or favoring one key over the other, enabling rapid trigger here, setting your actuation, stuff like that. Snappy then, the other setting as a play on words, this prioritizes the key of whichever gets actuated the furthest. Kind of feels similar to SOCD, honestly. Your dynamic keystroke gives you the ability to have 4 actions on a single key, all depending on the fixed distance you press the key. Pretty cool for creating macros or use in MOBAs. The mod tap setting giving you a function when you tap, and another function for when it's held down, so like crouching and going prone all on a single key. Then the toggle key mode makes it so that a key is essentially being recognized as always held down instead of just being tapped. But the main areas of focus are going to be in messing around with the Advanced Keys tab, as well as the Actuation and Rapid Trigger tab. Under Actuation Point, that's just, letting you customize a switch or the entire board's actuation distance, adjustable from 0.1 to 4 millimeters, again, per key basis, or do it globally for the whole board. Then Rapid Trigger, you're probably familiar with this. This lets you have numerous repeated keystrokes, all without needing the key to be physically reset. You can press the key mid-motion and it'll actuate again for you, eliminating your physical human latency. So speaking of which, let's wrap this up with its actual use when gaming. And I just talked about latency, but enabling their tachyon mode brings the board down to about a millisecond of input lag only. In stock, this runs at 8,000 Hz polling out of the box. So you combine the 8K Hz, 1 millisecond response time, 0.1 millimeter rapid trigger SOCD, and you literally will feel like you're cheating. And that's not me being dramatic or shilling for Wooting. They don't need me hyping them up, because their product history speaks for itself, their reputation. They are literally one of the 2 major leaders in the esports and gaming keyboard scene, along with Razer. And the difference is, honestly, Wooting is a smaller team in comparison. And you know that because, like I said before, their passion is so obvious with each and every groundbreaking release. This is the company who is doing it right, listening to community feedback, taking the feedback into consideration every step of the way from when this board was first announced, and delivering, over-delivering on a crazy good keyboard at this price. This is Keyboard of the Year, and you won't be hearing just me say that. So at the end of the day, I realize you can't please everybody, right? No matter what, someone's always gonna nitpick. Maybe the 80% layout isn't for you. Sure, maybe you need a volume dial. Okay. The only thing people I can probably see harping on in the comment section is gonna be the price point. $290 still really isn't that bad for the materials here and the overall quality of the board. In terms of comparing the plastic to the zinc alloy frame, I think it really depends what you're looking for. Personally, I love the way that the PCR Ghost plastic sounds. It has a bit more of a pop to the keyboard overall. However, the zinc alloy is so much more premium feeling. It provides nice heft. So it depends on really what you're looking for. I am gonna stick with the PCR plastic here. And the only real negative thing this entire time that I could possibly think of, which might not even be a negative now that I say it out loud to you guys, depends on how you take it, is despite this being gasket mounted, it's kind of still pretty firm overall. There's a decent amount of flex in the corners, but the middle of the board overall, still relatively stiff. So while I myself prefer a bit more of a give to my board, I also realize at the same time that could also be a good thing, because when it comes to these Hall effect switches, again, 0.1 millimeters and rapid trigger, if there was a bit more flex in the middle while you're gaming, that could kind of throw off your muscle memory over time, where you're used to a certain fixed distance and then having that softer, flexible give may kind of throw that off. So I realize, like, you know, when I say it, that it sounds like a con because it's what I prefer, more flex, but it may not be to most people. And that's really all I can think of in terms of negatives. Everything else, like I said before, the Adderall of keyboard, Snappy Tappy, 0.1 millimeters, 8K hertz, all the good stuff with rapid trigger involved. This keyboard is crazy, crazy good. I called it keyboard of the year, and I mean it. So guys, that'll wrap it up for my review of the brand new Wooting HE. Hope you all enjoyed. Let me know down below in the comment section, are you planning on upgrading? What are you coming from? Because I'm pretty sure if you do upgrade, this is gonna be a major, major advantage over what you're used to. If you like this review, give it a big thumbs up to show your support. Feel free to follow me on all socials at randomfrankp. And lastly, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Hope you all enjoyed. Have a good day.